Hold up. Stop everything you're doing right now. Are you tired of being disrespected by your own adult child? Tired of walking on eggshells in your own home? Today, I'm dropping 13 game-changing strategies that will transform your relationship forever. And trust me, number 7 is going to blow your mind and probably make you question everything you've done as a parent. This isn't some fluffy, feel-good advice. This is real talk for real parents dealing with real problems. By the end of this video, you'll have a complete action plan to reclaim your respect and rebuild your relationship. So buckle up, because we're about to dive deep. Method number 1. Take a deep breath before responding. Listen to me very carefully. Your first instinct when your adult child disrespects you is to fire back with the same energy. Don't do it. I'm telling you right now, this is the biggest mistake you can make. When your child comes at you with attitude, your brain goes into fight or flight mode. Your heart starts racing, your blood pressure spikes, and you want to put them in their place immediately. But here's what happens when you react from that place of anger. You lose all your power. You become just another person screaming in the room, and suddenly, you're not the parent anymore. You're just another participant in a toxic screaming match. Instead, I want you to do something revolutionary. Take one deep breath, just one. In that breath, you're going to find your power again. You're going to remember that you're the adult here. That breath is your reset button. It's the difference between reacting like a wounded animal and responding like the wise, experienced person you are. Trust me on this one. Your composure is your superpower. When you stay calm while they're losing it, you automatically become the reasonable one in the room. And guess what? They notice that. This isn't about being passive. This is about being strategic. You're not backing down, you're powering up. That one breath gives you access to all the other strategies I'm about to share with you. So remember this formula. Disrespect plus deep breath equals your comeback moment. Write that down, because we're just getting started. But taking a breath is just step 1. Now let me show you how to use that composure to completely change the game. Because what I'm about to tell you next will determine whether you win or lose this entire interaction. Method number 2, remain respectful. This is where most parents lose the war. They think that staying respectful when their child is being disrespectful makes them weak. Wrong. It makes you unstoppable. Here's what's really happening when you match their disrespect with your own disrespect. You're teaching them that this behavior is acceptable. You're literally modeling the exact behavior you're trying to stop. Think about it. How can you demand respect while being disrespectful? It's like trying to teach someone to whisper by screaming at them. It makes absolutely no sense. When you stay respectful, you do something incredible. You hold up a mirror to their behavior. Suddenly they can see exactly how they sound, because you're showing them what the alternative looks like. And here's the psychological magic that happens. When you consistently show respect, even when they don't deserve it, you create cognitive dissonance in their brain. They start questioning their own behavior. I'm not saying this is easy. Every fiber of your being wants to unleash on them. But this is where you separate yourself from average parents and become an exceptional parent. Your respectful response becomes a weapon. Not a weapon to hurt them, but a weapon to cut through their defensiveness and reach their conscience. When you consistently speak calmly and politely, even during their worst moments, you're creating a safe space for real communication to happen. And that's where the magic happens. Remember, you're not being respectful because they deserve it in that moment. You're being respectful because you deserve to be the kind of person who doesn't let other people's behavior determine your character. But staying respectful is meaningless if you don't have clear boundaries. And that brings us to the game changer. Method number 3, set clear boundaries. This is it. This is where everything changes. If you don't have boundaries with your adult child, you don't have a relationship. You have a hostage situation where you are the hostage. Listen to these non-negotiables. No yelling in this house. No disrespectful language. The word no will be respected. You will clean up after yourself. These aren't suggestions. These are laws in your kingdom. But here's where most parents screw this up. They set boundaries like they're asking for permission. Honey, could you maybe not yell at me? No, that's not a boundary, that's begging. A real boundary sounds like this. I will not be spoken to disrespectfully. If you choose to yell or use inappropriate language, I will leave the conversation. This is not up for debate. You need to understand something. Boundaries aren't mean. They're merciful. They're giving your child a clear roadmap of how to have a good relationship with you. When you don't have boundaries, your child has to guess what's okay and what's not. That's not fair to them. You're setting them up to fail and then getting mad when they do. Boundaries create safety for both of you. They know exactly what to expect, and you know exactly how to respond. No more confusion, no more walking on eggshells. And here's the beautiful part. When you involve them in creating these boundaries, they feel heard and respected. It becomes our rules instead of my rules imposed on you. Grab a journal right now and write down your non-negotiables. What behaviors will you absolutely not tolerate? What's okay and what crosses the line? Get crystal clear on this. But setting boundaries is only half the battle. What happens when they test those boundaries? That's where most parents completely fall apart. Method number 4, consistently reinforce the boundaries. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you find out if you're serious about change or if you're just playing games with yourself. Your boundaries are only as strong as your willingness to enforce them. If you set a boundary and then don't follow through the first time it's tested, you've just taught your child that your boundaries are suggestions. I see parents do this all the time. They say, I won't tolerate yelling. And then the first time their child raises their voice, they just keep arguing. What message does that send? It sends the message that you don't mean what you say, that you're not serious, that your boundaries are negotiable. And guess what happens next? They push even harder. When your adult child violates a boundary, you address it immediately and calmly. You're raising your voice, and I said I wouldn't discuss this if that happens. I'm going to step away now. Then you do it. You don't give warnings. You don't give second chances in the moment. You follow through. This isn't punishment. This is natural consequences. Consistency is everything. It doesn't matter if it's inconvenient, if it's awkward, if other people are watching. If the boundary is crossed, you respond the same way every time. This is how you build trust and respect. When your child knows that you mean what you say, they start taking your words seriously. They start respecting the boundaries because they know they're real. And here's what's amazing. After a few consistent responses, the testing stops. They learn that the boundaries are fixed and they start operating within them automatically. But before we go any further, we need to make sure your expectations are actually realistic. Because sometimes what we think is disrespect is actually just normal adult behavior. Method number 5. Make sure you have realistic expectations. Hold up. Before you label everything as disrespectful, we need to have a serious reality check. Because sometimes the problem isn't your child's behavior. It's your expectations. Your adult child will disagree with you. They will make choices you don't like. They will have opinions that differ from yours. This isn't disrespect. This is called being an adult. I've seen parents get offended because their 25-year-old child doesn't want to come to every family dinner. That's not disrespectful. That's having a life. Real disrespect looks like this: name-calling, yelling in anger, belittling comments, completely ignoring your reasonable boundaries, or maintaining a consistently hostile tone. That's disrespect. But disagreeing respectfully, expressing frustration calmly, setting their own personal boundaries, making independent life choices, that's not disrespect. That's healthy adult behavior. You need to ask yourself this hard question. Am I upset because they're being disrespectful? Or am I upset because they're not doing what I want them to do? There's a huge difference. One is about respect, the other is about control. And if you're trying to control an adult, you're going to lose every single time. Your job as a parent of an adult child is not to control their choices. It's to maintain a respectful relationship while they make their own choices. even if you disagree with them. When you adjust your expectations to match reality, suddenly, a lot of conflicts disappear. You're not fighting battles that don't need to be fought. But here's something most parents never do, and it's probably the most important thing on this entire list. Method number 6, be open to listening and empathizing. This is going to hurt, but you need to hear it. Sometimes your adult child isn't being disrespectful. They're trying desperately to be heard by you. When was the last time you really listened to your child without immediately jumping into fix-it mode, without defending yourself, without interrupting to explain why they're wrong? Real listening looks like this: maintaining eye contact, nodding, asking follow-up questions, and saying things like, "That must have been really hard for you," or "I can see why you'd feel frustrated about that." Empathy doesn't mean agreement. You can understand their feelings without agreeing with their conclusions. You can validate their experience without accepting disrespectful behavior. But here's what happens when you really listen. Their defensiveness starts to melt away. They stop fighting to be heard because they feel heard. Most family conflicts aren't really about the surface issue. They're about deeper feelings of not being understood, not being valued, not being respected as an individual. When you take the time to really understand their perspective, you often discover that their disrespectful behavior is actually pain, frustration, or fear coming out sideways. And here's the beautiful part. When you model good listening, they start listening better too. You're teaching them how to have a real conversation instead of a battle. Sometimes the fastest way to solve a respect problem is to show respect first. Respect for their feelings, their perspective, their right to be heard and understood. But listening and empathizing is just the beginning. What happens when you discover that some of their feelings are about things you did wrong? Method number 7, acknowledge your mistakes and apologize. This is the one that's going to separate the truly exceptional parents from everyone else. Are you ready to hear something that might make you uncomfortable? You screwed up. We all screwed up. Parenting is the hardest job in the world, and every single one of us made mistakes that hurt our children. And your adult child remembers those mistakes. But here's what most parents do. They defend, they justify, they explain why they did what they did, they minimize the impact. And all of that just makes it worse. Your adult child doesn't need you to be perfect. They need you to be honest. They need you to say, "I messed up, I'm sorry, and I understand why that hurt you." When you acknowledge your mistakes, something magical happens. You validate their experience. You're telling them that their feelings matter, that their pain is real, that they're not crazy for feeling hurt. This is especially powerful if your child experienced emotional neglect or any kind of trauma. Hearing their parents say, "I was wrong," can be incredibly healing. And guess what happens when you model taking responsibility for your mistakes? They start taking responsibility for their mistakes. You're teaching them how to be accountable. A simple, "I'm sorry I didn't handle that well," or "I realize now that I was wrong," can rebuild trust that's been broken for years. But this has to be genuine. You can't apologize just to manipulate them into better behavior. They'll see right through that. This is about real acknowledgement and real change. Now, apologizing for your mistakes doesn't mean you accept disrespectful behavior from them. Which brings us to method number 8, call out disrespectful behavior. Now we're getting into the meat of it. When your adult child is being genuinely disrespectful, you don't ignore it. You don't hint at it. You don't hope they figure it out. You address it head on. But here's how you do it without starting World War III. You stay calm, you be specific, and you focus on the behavior, not their character. Instead of, "You're being disrespectful," you say, "When you raise your voice at me, it feels disrespectful, and I'd prefer if we could discuss this calmly." See the difference? You're not attacking them as a person. You're addressing the specific behavior and explaining how it affects you. Ignoring disrespect is actually cruel. You're letting them develop a pattern that's going to hurt their relationships with everyone else in their life. When you call out disrespectful behavior immediately and directly, you're giving them the chance to course correct. You're helping them become a better person. But you have to be willing to do this every time. Not just when you're in a bad mood, not just when it's convenient. Every time the line is crossed. And here's what's beautiful about this approach. When you address it calmly and specifically, they usually recognize it and adjust their behavior immediately. You're not trying to win an argument. You're trying to maintain a standard of communication that works for both of you. But timing is everything when you're addressing disrespectful behavior, which brings us to this crucial strategy. Method number 9, focus on the present. This is where most parents sabotage themselves. They turn one incident into a historical documentary of every wrong thing their child has ever done. Stop saying you always do this. Stop bringing up every fight from the last 5 years. Stop making it about their character flaws. Focus on this moment, this behavior, this conversation. When you say, right now, the way you're speaking to me feels disrespectful and I'd like us to talk more calmly, you're dealing with the actual problem. But when you say, you always speak to me disrespectfully, just like last month when you've just turned one problem into 100 problems. Your adult child's brain shuts down the moment you start bringing up the past. They go into defensive mode, and now you're fighting about everything except the current issue. Staying present keeps the focus where it belongs, on solving the current problem and moving forward together. And here's the beautiful part. When you consistently focus on the present, you're showing them that you're not keeping score. You're showing them that each conversation is a fresh start. This creates hope. They start believing that they can actually change things, that they're not permanently branded as the disrespectful child. Focus on the present moment, address the current behavior, and keep moving forward together. That's how you build a relationship instead of just having a series of arguments. But if you're married or have a partner, there's something crucial you need to know. Method number 10. Be a united front. If you have a partner, you need to listen to this like your family depends on it, because it does. Your adult child will absolutely exploit any crack in your relationship. Here's what happens when you're not united. Your child goes to whoever is more likely to say yes. They play you against each other. They create drama between you and your partner. This is called triangulation, and it's incredibly destructive. Suddenly, instead of dealing with your child's behavior, you're fighting with your partner about how to handle your child's behavior. You and your partner need to get on the same page before you address any issues with your adult child. You need to agree on the boundaries, the consequences, and the approach. And here's something most people don't realize. Conflicts between parents often cause disrespectful behavior in adult children. They don't respect parents who don't respect each other. If you're constantly undermining each other, constantly disagreeing about how to handle situations, constantly putting your child in the middle, they're going to lose respect for both of you. Your child needs to see that you and your partner are a team, that you support each other, that you make decisions together. When you present a united front, your child can't manipulate the situation. They have to deal with the actual issue instead of trying to divide and conquer. This doesn't mean you always have to agree with your partner, but you need to work out your disagreements privately and present a unified approach to your child. But sometimes, even with all these strategies, you need to step back and look in the mirror. Method number 11, know your value. Stop right here. Before we go any further, I need you to remember something that you might have forgotten in all the chaos and conflict. You are not a bad parent. You did not ruin your child. You are doing your best with the tools and knowledge you have, and that matters. Parenting is the hardest job in the world. You made sacrifices. You worried countless nights. You gave everything you had to raise this child. And sometimes, when you're being disrespected and criticized and blamed, you start believing that maybe you are a terrible parent. Stop that right now. Your worth as a person and as a parent is not determined by your adult child's behavior in their worst moments. You are valuable, you are important, and you deserve respect. When you remember your value, you stop tolerating disrespect out of guilt. You stop accepting bad behavior because you think you deserve it. Knowing your value gives you the strength to set boundaries. It gives you the courage to address problems. It gives you the wisdom to know when to step back. You can love your child unconditionally while still requiring them to treat you with basic respect. These two things are not contradictory. Stand up straight. Remember what you've given. Remember what you've sacrificed. Remember that you deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. But knowing your value also means being honest about areas where you might need to grow. Method number 12. Examine your parenting style. This is going to be uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Sometimes our adult children are disrespectful because we modeled disrespectful behavior when they were growing up. Are you passive-aggressive? Do you use sarcasm as a weapon? Do you dismiss their feelings? Do you criticize more than you encourage? Be brutally honest with yourself. Your child learned how to communicate by watching you. If they're disrespectful, where did they learn that behavior? This isn't about blame. This is about understanding. If you were controlling, they might be rebelling. If you were critical, they might be defensive. If you were dismissive, they might be demanding to be heard. This is why family therapy can be so valuable. A therapist can see patterns that you're too close to the situation to notice. They can help you understand the dynamics. Looking at your parenting style isn't about beating yourself up. It's about growing and improving. It's about breaking cycles that might be hurting your relationship. When you're willing to examine your own behavior and make changes, you model accountability for your child. You show them that growth is possible at any age. And sometimes when you change your approach, their behavior changes automatically. When you stop being defensive, they stop being aggressive. This takes courage, but it's worth it. Your willingness to grow and change can transform your entire family dynamic. But sometimes, despite all your efforts, the disrespectful behavior continues. And sometimes there's a deeper reason. Method number 13. Consider if it is a cry for help. This is the most important thing I'm going to tell you in this entire video. Sometimes disrespectful behavior from your adult child isn't really about you at all. It's a cry for help. If your normally respectful child suddenly becomes hostile and disrespectful, something else is going on. They might be struggling with depression, anxiety, financial stress, relationship problems, or work issues. When people feel out of control in their own lives, they sometimes lash out at the people who feel safest, and that's usually their parents. This is especially true if the disrespectful behavior is new. If they used to treat you well and suddenly they don't, you need to look deeper. Instead of just addressing the disrespect, you might need to ask, what's really going on? How can I help? What are you struggling with that I don't know about? Sometimes your adult child needs support, not consequences. They need understanding, not boundaries. They need help, not lectures. This might mean encouraging them to seek professional help. It might mean connecting them with resources. It might mean just being there to listen without judgment. Don't be so focused on the disrespectful behavior that you miss the pain underneath it. Sometimes bad behavior is the only way they know how to communicate that they're drowning. Your response in these moments can either push them away or draw them closer. Choose compassion first, boundaries second. And if you're feeling overwhelmed by all of this, remember that you don't have to figure it all out alone. There you have it, 13 powerful strategies that can completely transform your relationship with your disrespectful adult child. But here's the thing, knowing these strategies isn't enough. You have to actually use them. I want you to pick one strategy from this list and implement it this week. Don't try to do all 13 at once. Pick one, master it, then move on to the next. And remember, change takes time. Don't expect overnight results. Your relationship didn't get difficult overnight, and it won't be fixed overnight either. If you're feeling overwhelmed, consider getting professional help. Individual therapy, family therapy, or group therapy can provide the support and guidance you need. You deserve to have a respectful relationship with your adult child. Don't give up, don't settle for less, and don't stop fighting for the relationship you both deserve. If this video helped you, smash that like button, subscribe for more family relationship content, and let me know in the comments which strategy you're going to try first. I read every single comment, and I'm here to support you on this journey. Remember, you've got this. You're stronger than you think, wiser than you know, and more capable than you realize. Now go out there and start rebuilding that relationship. I'll see you in the next video.